Hey everybody, how's it going? Christian from Treasure Town here, and I'm with Curt from Gammer Coin on Instagram, and we've got some cool coins we're going to be doing a show and tell, but we're at the Witter Coin University and having a great time learning a ton about coins. So thank you to Seth, all the instructors, and everybody who made it possible behind the scenes. But
yes, absolutely incredible. We're literally right in the middle of San Francisco. We're actually on our lunch break. We better hurry off to class, but I got some great stuff to show everyone. Some niche stuff, surprisingly affordable. So it's just gonna be a fun time. So thanks for listening and watching.
let's get into the coins. All right, so we've got the coins in front of us here, and we're just going to go one by one, checking each one of them out and learning a little bit about coins of the British Empire. So I'm going to pick this one up to start. It stands out. It says Straits Settlements, 1908, $1. But can you tell me a little bit more about everything from what Straits Settlements is and to the context of this coin?
All right, hello everyone again. Starting off with us here is a Edward VII issue of a Straits Settlements dollar from 1908. The Straits Settlements were tiny little peninsulas, including Singapore, off the Malay Peninsula. So that's near Indonesia, Southeast Asia. And we have, what's really curious about this coin is that we have three different languages. We have English, Malay, and Chinese. So it's a super attractive coin, gem uncirculated. These coins circulated very heavily. They were favorited for their size, their weight, and their silver purity. We have Edward VII on the obverse. Just give it a flip. Edward VII on the obverse in his imperial robes with his crown. You know that he's the king. You know that he's the emperor. And when you flip it around with the reverse, you have this wonderful, what I describe as an oriental design. And it really shows you the multiculturalism of Singapore today, Singapore then.
Definitely. And do you know where these coins, were they basically circulating there, or did they have a broader reach?
They circulated mostly in Singapore and the peninsula. Some of these do come with chop marks from Northern Asia, so like up the Chinese coast. So they did go far, just not very often.
And how long, what was the date range in terms of when Straits coins were being produced?
Okay.
Not obviously the exact year, but if you know that would be great.
They started off minting these specific coins in 1903 with the adoption of the Straits Settlements dollar as their currency. These coins came larger. These are two small types. They made the larger types from 1903 to 1904. The silver value is actually worth more than face, so people were melting them down, which is obviously a problem if you're minting coins.
Definitely.
So they decided to reduce the size, not the fineness of the coin. So these are both small types. This one's a 1907. This one actually came from a very cool coin shop in Hong Kong. I cannot pronounce the name for the life of me. But this is both of these coins have incredible eye appeal to me. I'm sure that a lot of people would like the gem uncirculated one. I'm the same way. But this one just has a lovely patina. Oh, you're pulling up the British trade dollar now too. Very cool. Just as a contrast, these coins saw action.
And that's what I was seeing, with this. I was going to ask, I saw that the date was 1903. Maybe it's a little bit different in terms of being a British trade dollar. What was the relation of these coins, especially because it looks like you have probably Malay and Chinese, I presume? Or maybe it's a different language there.
I want to say it's obviously some form of dialect that could be very Malay, but that's definitely Chinese. These were the trade coins of the British Empire, and I want to address the elephant in the room. This coin was actually soldered onto a headdress of form. And yeah, it was really weird. I have photos, maybe we can add them in. This one, the dealer, not me, ripped off all the coins. And so the thing is, I really don't collect ex-jewelry coins. And for $50, you get a really cool piece of Asian history. This coin is also an issue of Edward VII, 1903. He was coronated in 1902. But the British trade dollars do not have the monarch. Instead, we have Britannia instead. Now, the modern silver stackers are going to instantly recognize this coin.
Definitely.
This is the same Britannia on the 1 ounce, and they did gold issues, I'm not sure. But we have, obviously, the ships in the background, trident, shield. She rules the waves, baby.
I think that's super cool context to know that this also wasn't just put in a, somebody stuck it on and marketed it. It sounds like it was in a headdress. It was really being used
I
as a
don't know,
decorative purpose.
fashion model or just presentation. I doubt anyone wore it. To have $100 silver on a hat seems kind of heavy.
Yeah. It's I don't own too many of those hats in my personal wardrobe, but that's a cool one. Maybe which one do you think we should go to next?
Well, we were just going over Britannia, so why don't we go over was this the first steam-pressed coin? The 1797 cartwheel.
Awesome.
Now, I am from Pennsylvania, not Hershey, but I go there quite frequently, and I will tell you this coin is pure milk chocolate. Look at the surfaces on that.
And it's maybe I'll have it here and show off the edge. I mean, that's one of the thickest coins that I've ever seen. Even when, this is not a super thin coin here, and that's, I'm not exactly sure if I can call it a double, but I mean, this is a monster coin.
I want to say this is the largest in terms of thickness circulating coins in modern history. I can't say that with too much confidence, but this is, when it was struck, was 2 full ounces of copper. There was a little bit of mistrust in the British Mint in terms of copper denominations with the Condor tokens and all those private issues. Our viewers might know that, but the Mint wanted to restore confidence, so they said, okay, so 1 ounce of copper for the 1 pence, 2 for the 2.
That's a way to do it.
So these were minted at spot back then.
Which is crazy to think, that's how they decided to do it. We never, obviously, in the States had anything comparable to these. It wasn't, they weren't made for too long, though, right? It's just 1797 and a few other dates?
Just 1797 for the 2 pences. They made half pennies in 1806 and 1807, similar, but not nearly as large. So this is going to be a 1797 only coin. And something I really like about this bust of George III, is that the fact that he looks so ancient and regal. It really hails back to an earlier portrait type. Just
Absolutely.
Such a neat coin.
And maybe for those who aren't even super familiar, George the Third, excuse me, what was his sort of reigning period? And
George III was coronated in 1763, thereabout, give or take a year, and he was the Mad King. There's a reputation before that, he's also known as the last king of the American colonies. So if you were fighting with George Washington, if you're old enough, you probably remember this guy. He was the enemy. He was the one who sent redcoats to Boston, and also sent Cornwallis to surrender a few years later, because we're Americans. That's how we do it. He ate off of pewter plates, the legend is, pewter and lead. And when you digest enough of that, you turn a little loony. So his son, who later became George IV, ruled as regent for the last 10 years of his reign. And he died in 1820. Passed away in 1820. So he had a pretty long reign.
Yeah,
I don't know
exactly.
the math, but I mean, it's almost like...
That's like 57 years or so. I mean, that's a long time.
It's almost Elizabeth II.
Yeah. We'll see how long, her reign will be. But maybe after this, we just talked about a huge coin. We got a really small one over here.
This
so
actually might be one of my smallest in my collection. So I wanted to do it raw, but Philip, for easier handling, this is a 1902 Monday penny. Now, I don't know if any of the viewers subscribe to the Numismatist, but I believe it was the April issue of the Numismatist. They covered the Monday coinage.
Okay,
so the Monday is a religious ceremony that takes place in the British Isles, where the monarch traditionally would wash the feet of the poor and then present them with alms, with payments, with foodstuffs and clothes. And now it's pretty much ceremonial. They send them a check in the mail.
Yeah.
It is the 20s after all. Well, I'm sorry, I just got taken away by the color in that coin. Very limited mintages in these. They're very hard to find, but when you do, seriously undervalued. Okay. These coins can be had very nice for the low 3 figures.
Gotcha. And when you say a low mintage, not exact, obviously, but are these like tens of thousands, or is this?
We're talking about less than 1,000.
Okay.
Less than 1,000 before Elizabeth II. After Elizabeth II, things get kind of wonky.
Gotcha.
And very affordable. So if you don't have the budget to spend $200 or $300 on a coin, go with Elizabeth II. You're still getting a strange denomination. Obviously, the obverse and the portrait changes for each monarch, but when you flip it over, this reverse has remained unchanged since, I want to say 1884 or 1887. Wow. And it's actually the longest standing design in British coinage, like right now. So that's very cool. This, if you like this reverse, you could have it for a few bucks.
It's cool to see so many different types of coins. I mean, we just did copper. We were doing a lot of silver. There's one gold up here, and then obviously we're saving the best for last. But is there anything special about this coin, or what are we looking at here?
A little special, okay? Because I always think all gold I own is special.
Definitely.
But this is a 1903 Melbourne Mint, Australia. So this is Outback gold right now. This is another coin of Edward VII. The sovereign was the most used and also now the most faked bullion coin in the world. You'd think it was the Krugerrand, but it's not the Krugerrand. It is the sovereign. These were extremely popular since the times of George III, the gentleman that we just talked about. Actual gold weight of what? 0.2354. Spot on these right now is about $430. So they could be had for relatively cheap. APMEX is selling these in BU for $500. I love the surfaces on these coins. It's remained mostly intact. Obviously, a few distracting bag marks on the rims, protect it from a 64 grading. Low EMA, 61, 62, in my opinion. We have St. George here on horseback slaying the dragon. Whoa. Biblical story. Looks really cool.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and on gold, it almost looks way better. I mean, maybe you're not going to get as much toning, but I mean, it's gold, so.
Gold is gold. Now, I don't know if you can, you can see the M.
I'm going to zoom in on it now. It's right above the 0.
Right above the 0 in 1903. You can get some really cool coins. They made these in London, the Tower Mint, Bombay, South Africa, Melbourne, Perth, and Sydney.
Didn't realize it was that global. I mean, that's super cool. When you have an empire, that's sort of what you can do.
Yes, sir. And when you have, it's much easier to make these coins in Australia than ship them on a boat literally across the world.
Definitely.
So that's a great coin.
No, that's helpful, and that's something we don't think about. That's why a lot of the branch mints were opened in the States.
Okay, so something I forgot about that I really want to point out is that this sovereign actually has his home portrait. I don't know if there's an actual term for it. But
what does that mean?
Okay, so notice how he's not wearing a crown or imperial robes, because in this photo he is king. In this portrait he is king, whereas take the straight settlements dollar, for example, he is emperor. Coins of the Commonwealth typically have this portrait. Coins back home, and I guess in Australia, have this.
Thanks for pointing that out. I never even, I'd seen it, but I hadn't really looked closely and realized that.
In Australian copper, he does have the imperial. I guess that the sovereigns are the exception.
Huh? No, maybe it's a more global coin. I'm not really sure.
These coins were the most circulated bullion coin at the time.
Makes sense. I mean, now I've been excited to learn more about this. I don't know a ton about it. It's not something I'd ever really seen much similar to. But what are we looking at here?
Wow. Yeah, this coin is by far my favorite out of the bunch. And it should be. I mean, if you know your hammered English, this
which I don't,
will be yours. So we're gonna go into it. This is a shilling of Charles I, who, if anyone back home has read their English history, was the first monarch to be killed by their own people. But this was before all the beheading, the blood, and the guts and stuff. Parliament's first order of business was striking coins without the king's permission. This was one of the few hundred that they struck. Now, something very important about this coin was that it still features the bust of Charles I. He wanted to retain his sovereignty, so that he wanted to work with a parliament. So the parliament was, we can explain the English Civil War in a few sentences here. British Parliament, which is the Congress, the legislative branch, was not a basic thing back then. That was kind of like a fluke. The English people for the most part, wanted a year-round parliament. The king wasn't exactly for losing more power. His buddies losing their money. So he said no. The first phase of the Civil War, he was captured and imprisoned, and they said, okay, let's work with us. You're going to be what's called a constitutional monarch, where you have to respect the wishes of the people. He said, no, I'm not ready for that. In the divine right to rule, he was sent by God. So they cut his head off. Oliver Cromwell cut his head off. Before this, though, they wanted to show you that Parliament, which hit it with the right
And
angle.
maybe, let's see, and I'm assuming this is the P at the top of the
Yeah,
coin?
we see a P in brackets. So after the
Right
X, you see a
there.
bracket, P, bracket. Parliament. An issue of Parliament.
It's no, it's so cool. I mean, we don't really see it. We don't let anybody on the coins in the States until they're dead. But there, it was a huge deal who was issuing the coins.
The fact that P was over the crown. I mean, these at the time coins were propaganda. And the fact that you would put the legislative body of a country over the king's crown.
That's a statement. I mean, to say the least.
That's what people in the business call a BBM, a big ball move. If you forgive me for my imagery there, but it's a really nice coin.
Absolutely, and again, not anything super specific, but in terms of the valuation on this, and then maybe go through, just as an estimate, some of the other stuff for the viewers' sense.
So this coin doesn't come cheap. Coins of similar type can be had for a few $100s, but the fact that this is spinked 2800, it is the sole top pop at PCGS, and the one in MS62 and NGC is misattributed, but we don't have to get into that right now. This coin is the sole top pop that we know of, and in the PCGS registry, around $1,000 mark.
No, that's a very cool coin to be holding. And then for those that might not be as familiar, Spink, what sort of classification system is that?
That's a catalog system that Spink came out with. I don't know if it's 50 or 40 years old, and they have, I think they start at 2,000.
Gotcha.
In terms of hammered. I could be wrong there because I actually, they say buy the book before the coin. You can't pass up when you have a deal like this.
Definitely.
I'm not a huge hammered collector, but I mean, if you can cartwheel that, I mean, how many 350-year-old coins can cartwheel like that?
It's a real cool thing to hold.
I think it's seriously undergraded.
Yeah, well, I'm not the best expert at world grading, but we can see what happens. You think you're gonna crack it out, or what do you? What do you
it's
think?
a shame CAC doesn't take medieval silver, because if they did, I think this would get a gold beanie. Let's just say that.
Okay, cool.
I can't make any comments whether or not I can crack that sound.
Sounds good. Well, I mean, I enjoyed talking about this. I know we're gonna do another video on some non-British Empire stuff, but thanks so much for being on, and I'll look forward to making that video as well.
Thank you so much for having me. It was awesome talking to you guys.
Thanks for watching the video. I'd encourage you to like, comment, and definitely subscribe to the channel and connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I also have a website, treasuretownYT.com, where you should go so that you can learn more about coins as well as what's happening on the channel and possibly find a place to sell your coins and collectibles. I also want to talk about some of my other projects like coinmeltprice.com, which shows precious metals prices as well as the melt values of coins containing those precious metals, both US and world. I also have coinsmetalscards.com, which will develop into a full marketplace as well as a news source for coins, metals, cards, as the name might suggest. And then treasuretowncoins.com, which long-term will be my coin dealing entity separate from the channel. And lastly, whatsthegrade.com, which will be a stickering service for already certified collectibles where you can get a approval or verification of the grade on the holder. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I look forward to seeing you on some of my other videos.